to Own It, Your Business and Your Life with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Morning.
Just in time to save yourself from a tetchy little message from me saying, "Where are you?"
I know. I was thinking that message is going to come any minute. Quick.
Yes, well, you're lucky. You're lucky, aren't you? Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much. I'm all rested and rejuvenated and ready to go back to Greece.
Okay. And that is tomorrow, is it?
No, Saturday.
Saturday, okay,
early.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Very early, yes.
Yeah.
It's a common fault with that model. My nephew's flown on his holidays today, and that was like, dark ridiculous at the airport. So it's normal, isn't it? Why do they get us all up in the middle of the night to go to the airport?
Because it's much cheaper for EasyJet to run early in the morning out of, they pay less at the airport and they can pass those savings on to us. I'm actually staying at Plop, which is a hotel right in the airport. And it means that
Sorry, did you say it's called Plop, did you say?
No, it's called The Block, BLOC.
The Block.
Yeah, I've actually booked the wrong one. I meant to book Yotel, which is one you can hire by the hour. And the block is one you can hire in the daytime, just for the day if you want to, rather than just for the night.
Yeah.
It's to cater for people who have got long layovers and who need to lie down.
Oh, it's a brilliant idea. I'm definitely going to do it when I next go to St. Martin, because then it means I can stay in that one in Paris and not have this ridiculous early morning nonsense.
Yeah, and also you can, I'll be able to go early in the evening, which will mean nobody has to drive me out. I can get on the train.
Yeah.
I can have a nice dinner. I was going to have a nice dinner in the airport, but I've just remembered that Wagamama's is on the wrong side of security. So I'll probably get a takeaway delivery, but at least I'll be in a private place with a shower and a telly, and I'll be able to lie down till 3:40 when I have to drag my weary bones not very far. It's in the same terminal as EasyJet depart from. So that's ideal, isn't it? I think what you've reminded me of, listening to you and sounding rather like me, is that you and I are fiercely independent. And what you said was, if I do that, it means nobody has to drive me up. Well, Gatwick is 20 minutes from Shoreham, and one of your children would probably be delighted to do that, but you don't want to be a nuisance, and I'm exactly the same. It's weird, isn't it? Well, it's a Friday night. It'll cut right into their evening. There's a perfectly adequate train station just down the road. Phoebe will drop me at the train station with my suitcases, brand new suitcases, may I just add. I've been on a little buying bender. I've been on a shopping bender via Amazon. I bet you have. I've got some brand new suitcases, which are perfectly the right size. I've got one of those things where you can lift up your suitcases and weigh them. I'm very excited about that. So I'll never be surprised like I was at the Emirates check-in again. I've got 2 new sets of Birkenstocks, black and white. I've bought an external hard drive. Phoebe's assured me I need one of those. It'll make my editing life much easier. And lots of other goodies. So I've had a lovely little spending spree. And it's all arrived on time and everything, has it? Yes, it has. I'm just ordering contact lenses to arrive tomorrow now, which is cutting it a bit fine, I'll grant you. But went out to dinner with Irving, my ex-husband, and Heather, my sister, and the kids on Tuesday night. And then we're having lunch with my dad tomorrow, me and Phoebe. So that'll be nice. Going to a pub. And that's pretty much it, really. I've just been resting, recuperating, and catching up. Okay, so it brings up something I'm not going to discuss in the podcast, but I'd like to discuss with you afterwards. 2 things, actually. Right, shall I tell you about my week? Yes, love to hear it. So I'm moving house. Yesterday, Wednesday, I had the cleaners in. They were fantastic. Then Emma came and collected the stuff for storage, but she ran me through it a bit, because on Monday, you remember, we made this week's podcast, and I said I was anxious because she hadn't confirmed that she was coming, and I did actually consult the yes/no button. Do you know the yes/no button? No, I don't know. Oh, if you just go to yesnobutton.com, you can ask it a yes/no question. And it's quite useful when I'm coaching clients, because if they don't know how to make a decision, if you get the answer you want, then you know the answer, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like tossing a coin. Anyway, I consulted the yes/no button twice. Is she going to let me down? No. Do I need to make alternative arrangements in case she does? No.
So the yes, no button got the answers right. But she didn't confirm until after supper on Tuesday that she was going to come at 12:45 on Wednesday. And to be honest, that was a little bit near the bone for me, going back to the conversation we had on Monday about it being, me liking to be organised.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether I said this to you, excuse me, I've forgotten, but she offered me, without me requesting it, mates rates. I didn't ask for that. And the interesting thing about when you get mates rates, it's like when you do something for somebody for free, is it puts the customer in the position where they can't really ask for a professional service.
Yes.
And what I wanted to ask was, do you let your real clients know after supper the night before that you'll be there at 12:45 the next day when they're generally moving house? Because that's not good enough, is it? And I wanted to give her that feedback, and I didn't know how to do it because I didn't want to offend her. And so I phoned actually on the night before and at about, when she was eating her supper, and said, I'm getting a little bit anxious. And she said, it's okay, after supper I will send you an email. And she did. And she turned up on time, and it was okay. But what I noticed, and I did find a way to say, by the way, I think you've been very kind in the rates you've offered me. I didn't ask for mates rates. And I think you could have charged me a little bit more and I would have still said yes. So I did sort of find a way to say something about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hope that was useful for her. Lovely to see her driving a van. And I go, is this your van? And we did all the Yorkie jokes, and she goes, yeah, this is she said, this is my short wheelbase. Or she might have said, this is my long wheelbase. I can't remember. So I said, have you got the other one, whatever it was? Anyway, she's having fun, clearly. And she's not a girly girl. So driving about the UK in a van like that would be wonderful for her, actually. And she's so ungirly that she left her handbag behind on the kitchen table, drove around the block and came back to fetch it. And found me in a conversation with my next door neighbour, Roger, who you'll probably know from Facebook. I've been gagging to know, where does Roger go on his bike every day?
Yeah.
Well, we know the answer now. He's about 70 years old, and because I met him outside, I was able to ask him, whereas if I'd seen him going past the window and rushed outside to ask, it would have been a bit nosy, wouldn't it? Yeah. But he goes to tennis or squash on his bike, and he's 70.
Wow, that's brilliant.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Oh, just to let you know, on that top fitness topic, I've got a Fitbit on my wrist right now. And if I could work out how to make it work, it's telling me that my resting heart rate is 80. I've got no idea if that's good or not, but I thought
it's a little bit high, but then we are probably a little. I think mine was always about 68, but I think you can look that up in a quick Google. I think it's a bit like when you go to the doctor to have your blood pressure taken. Because we're recording, we would have a slightly elevated heart rate anyway because we're performing.
It was 76 all day yesterday when I wasn't talking to you.
Yeah, so that's more like it. You see, that's more like it. If you're sitting there on your own, that's more like it.
Yeah.
If you take more exercise, you can drive that down.
Well, that's what the idea of this is, that I start increasing my, my exercise by walking, and I thought we'll measure increases, so we'll get myself a Fitbit, then that'll make life easier.
Well, we want it to reduce in this example.
And then it also
we want your resting heart rate to reduce, darling. I don't know whether you can hear me. We've got a slight delay today, haven't we?
Yeah, I did hear, and I'm measuring my sleep, which is good because my sleep's been quite good since I got here, but it was a little bit disturbed last night. Have you seen press-on eyebrows? There's this
I've seen your videos about it. I haven't watched it because, of course, it's a video. But my brother shows me his stats about his sleep on his iPhone, and I don't really understand all of that, to be honest.
We're all obsessed with how much sleep we're getting at our age. It's so
yes.
Oh my God.
Now, I haven't finished here, so I'll go back if I may.
Okay.
I wrote these notes for today's show before a disaster struck, and tonight I'm supposed to be doing my first solo encounter and run up to Brixton to feed Fish the cat, and letting myself in after work, which is the normal routine. And I realised I didn't know whether they locked him up in the kitchen all day or if he's allowed to roam free. But I was going up there to feed him and take half my stuff and come back tomorrow. But last night when I was in bed, the boiler and the shower here both stopped working.
Oh.
So I thought, no, that's quite handy. It's only 24 hours before I leave, but I won't be warm between now and then, and I won't be able to get clean between now and then. What shall I do? Well, cut a long story short, I've managed to fix both of them. I came downstairs and fiddled about in the fuse box, and that brought the boiler back on. And this morning I've managed to find some sort of override switch in the airing cupboard that's brought the shower back on. But what I was thinking was, and I still am, I think I might go up there tonight and stay up there tonight rather than doing the 2 runs and save myself a trip in the morning, because I've complicated tomorrow, as I said to you, you, by having my MOT booked in. And I don't want to take my car around to the MOT station full of house-moving junk. And because I've got to move stuff up and down all these stairs there, I'm getting myself a little bit stressed about it. But what I really didn't want was Argentina to come home to Bromley and discover their house was cold and they couldn't get a shower after an 11-hour flight. But I've managed to fix that. Genius me!
Well done.
And the other thing I wanted to... Yeah, I know. The other thing I wanted to tell you in this section was about my win with GoDaddy. Did you see that?
No.
Well, GoDaddy is impenetrable, and I'd got all my the interface, the back end, and I'd got all my URLs on auto renew, and I didn't want them all on auto renew, and the process to get them off auto renew was so difficult that I made the exceptional step of phoning the helpline, and the helpline said, you have got an approximate delay of 14 minutes in front of you. And while I was in the 14 minutes, I managed to work out the 3 things that you have to do. You have to complete a 2-step verification, and then you turn off protected status so that you can then turn off auto renew. But the win I wanted to report to you, the big win here is, I now only have 3 domain names left.
Oh my God, I've been shedding mine as well. So which ones have you got left then?
I've got judithmorgan.com, of course, which I'll never get rid of because it's my name.
Yeah.
I've got drivedance.com, which is still an email that I use, and the original site that Guy Levine made for me, diverts, or the original, whatever, it diverts to judithmorgan.com. And I've got yourwealthprofile.com, which is my affiliate link to Roger Hamilton's thing, which pays me money. So those are the 3. I'll probably keep those. I was going to say keep them forever, but certainly keep them for the foreseeable future.
I always send people, if I'm telling them about the Wealth Dynamics profile, to your judithmorgan.com website and tell them to click through your link down the right-hand side.
You could cut that short for them, but just send them to yourwealthprofile.com. That's my URL for that.
Okay, all right. Well, I probably won't remember that, but...
No, well, it is easy to remember if you think about it, because the whole thing is about wealth profiles, and I've just put a your in front of it. Now, there's something I wanted to say on this point. Hang on.
Was it about me referring people? Was it before that?
It was when you said that, you, as I do, and so no blame attached here, cut across the thought, and now I've lost the thought. But it was about domain names and how we've collected them over the years and how we think they're vital and important.
I've been shedding mine for about 2 or 3 years now. I put everything on non-auto renew and I just let it slip away. I don't know how
quite.
About 10.
Well, I think that's the only thing you can do. You can only let them slip away when you don't renew, can't you?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a lovely feeling when they go past. And I think, I can let that one go. I can let that one go. I can let that one go. You get an email.
And it is, if you think about it, it's another form of clutter clearing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And all those great ideas that never came to anything. It's quite...
and then the madness. Do you know, we've mentioned this before, but he encouraged us both in that, don't you? It was Thomas Leonard. He used to make a URL every time he had a genius idea.
Yeah, because there's no point now in doing a genius idea or actioning it if you can't get the right URL. So that's where we start.
Well, we both feel that. I'm not sure it's 100% true. But anyway... Tell me what's fueled your fire.
Well, this week I've been going through my notes from the conference and the books that I was given. So I was given about 5 or 6 books, some of which were quite weighty tomes. But I want to recommend to you, not to you personally, obviously, a slim little book called Content Hacking by Alexi Neocleous, Neocleous.
No, slow down. Spell it.
It's Content
Neo.
By
Neo.
Neocleous. It's how companies are achieving explosive growth with content. And it's basically what I teach people, which is create a bit of content and then, boost it, not boost it, but with, that's the wrong word, amplify it with advertising. But what he does is he goes several steps further. And there were two or three things he taught us in how to create content that goes viral or that you can boost and make it go viral. And one of the things was if you could get celebrity into your content. So, for example, if you could do 5 things to learn about great speech writing from Martin Luther King. So if you can get a small number under 10 in the title, and if you can get a celebrity name in the title, then people are going, it's going to pull people's attention, because celebrity works every time. And the thing to do with this is to make it something unusual. So think about your target market, think about who they would respect and like, but not necessarily in a business world. So, try and think about what celebrity they would like in the film or show business world, for example, and then create your content around that and make it something alternative or controversial. And you've got much more chance of it going viral, especially when you start paying to boost it to a bigger audience. So that was a really nice thing. He also told us how to use Google, how to use a couple of other tools, and it'll all be in that book, Content Hacking, which is only a little slim book. It's about half the size of a normal fat business book. And I recommend it to you, as he's got lots of great ideas, and he was a very, very good presenter. I enjoyed that. James has done a recap from the conference, and he's used that photo of me and him on stage laughing as his cover shot.
Brilliant.
He said, this picture absolutely sums up the spirit of the conference. He said, people came from far and wide. We all had an absolutely brilliant time. We learned loads, and we had lots of laughs. So that was nice, wasn't it?
And your pudgy little girl fists are immortalised forever now.
Yes, they are. Very funny. And the final thing was, I'm just about to start a new Be Everywhere Online challenge, because Angela Henderson, who spoke a lot about not business to business, not business to consumer, but human to human marketing, which was very good. She's a challenge expert, and it reminded me that I've always done very well with my Be Everywhere Online challenges. I've got a lot of people in them. I've always made attracted clients out of them, and I'm thinking of doing a challenge around the law of attraction, because there are certain things I do that are not what most people do when they think about the law of attraction, and that's how I've kept my head straight since Christmas, in the face of quite a lot of adversity, I might say. And I wondered if perhaps people might enjoy a practical, non-spiritual guide to the law of attraction challenge. I haven't come up with a catchy name for it yet. And the other one I was thinking of was a money gym challenge. I thought that might be quite fun, but I'm still playing with that idea. But I've got to pick one, so I'll probably start with the Be Everywhere Online challenge, because once you've got everything set up for a challenge, you just rinse and repeat in a different Facebook group. It's really quite easy. So I might do that. That's what's fueled my fire. I'm quite fueled this week, as you may see.
Yes, you are. That's quite a long list for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to getting back to Greece to implement.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Well, I had Facebook send me a weekly email. It's a bit confusing, because it says it gives you, it comes weekly, but it gives you stats for the previous month, which is a bit strange.
Yeah.
And I'm comparing what it says in there with what I knew about my newsletter. So my reach is approximately the same, but with the newsletter, I had to send 4 newsletters in that month to achieve the same thing. So divide the same figure by 4, and it was being read by 25%. Of the reach I get, and the same people were opening it all 4 times in that month, and so this is 4 times better. Engagement is much better, like 1.5 thousand, and I certainly never got anywhere near that with my newsletter. And I hadn't even started trying with the dates under review, so the 12th of March to the 8th of April. Hadn't even given up the newsletter for the first half of that. The new page likes for 12. Well, I never got 12 opt-ins to my newsletter, ever. A mathematician like me likes this, and on Facebook I can get even more detail, and I can improve, just like you said, excuse me, just like you said about your Fitbit, I can improve whatever metric I choose to focus on now. And to see that email come in with all the green arrows going in an upward direction when I haven't even begun to focus on this is a bit of a challenge. It's almost like Facebook threw down a challenge, said, go on, Judith, see what you can do with that. And so I'm going to have a go at that. And in the context of the newsletter, in Project Updates, we're going to have a little chat about that Justin Brooke thing that you tagged me in. So still thinking about newsletters, really. Now, shall we move on to focus of the week?
Yes, I'm ready to take notes because you've got all...
Lovely. Oh, I've got nothing to say. I thought you were going to... Well, we'll both talk about it. Taking notes, that's interesting. I thought this was going to be a discussion. In view, I was inspired since Monday when we recorded 223, and this is 224. I was inspired by you saying, I can get away with doing a lot less marketing now I've made sales in Australia. Or so many sales in Australia, actually, and you were only, it was only a passing comment because you hadn't really had time to think it all through, and you've had 3 or 4 more days to think it through. But I thought, let's talk about selling. How many ways are there to sell? Why don't our clients and colleagues? Why doesn't anybody like selling, except for the few of us that do? And I thought, well, that you can sell from the stage as you did in Australia. You can sell via webinars, which you've had a go at before and I haven't. You can sell from sales pages, which we've both done. You can sell from email campaigns. You can sell via product launch formulas that Sue O'Kell's an expert in. You can sell face-to-face if you set up a meeting to go and specifically do that, which I think quite a lot of people I know do actually do and don't like doing. You can sell via cold calling, either by the phone or email. I think cold calling with email is pointless, but anyway, you can sell via relationship building so that eventually you get to pitch. And I like pitching because you can, the thing that I've done over the years is quite slow for my new clients, which is, you build up a list and you market to it's ages before the money comes in. But with pitching, you can identify the clients you want to work with and you can build up a prospects list. And eventually you get in front of somebody, but you have to ask for the business, and not many people relish that bit, but you and I do. So how did selling acquire a bad name? Is there selling without marketing? That goes to your quote from Peter Drucker. And we've talked endlessly in this podcast about marketing over the years, but hardly anything have we talked about selling. So what ways are there to go direct to the sale? Not bypassing marketing altogether, but not having a ratio of 95-5, maybe making it, I might even make it, I was going to say 50-50, I might make it even higher than that. I might go for 75 selling, 25 marketing, or I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about selling. And let's start with you, because you had this uplifting experience in Sydney, doing something you've always wanted to be successful at, and which has led directly to your shopping spree this week. So Tell us about selling, Nicola, from your perspective.
Well, when I was growing up, salespeople were anathema. They were, the lowest of the low. They were estate agents, they were car salespeople, they were people who sold you something you didn't want. That was the perception. And it was only when I read Think and Grow Rich, and I read a phrase in it called that went along the lines of, if you can find the biggest number of people to serve, then the rivers of abundance will flow for you. I'm paraphrasing, but that was how I remember it. Yes. And I thought that made a big click in my head when I read that, because I thought, okay, we're not selling at all. We're not selling things that people don't want. We're serving people. And even better description of selling I heard recently was that you're moving someone from one unsatisfactory situation to another more satisfactory situation. You're helping someone move from an unsatisfactory situation to a satisfactory one. And so you're not actually trying to sell people something they don't want using mysterious manipulative techniques that everybody imagines that salespeople do. Now, so there is a bit of NLP around nowadays, but there wasn't in the days when selling got a bad name. And so all selling was serving people and moving them from where they were and they didn't want to be to where they were and where they wanted to be, using a product or service. So all of this said, what Peter Drucker's quote says is the point of good marketing is to make selling superfluous. And I heard that from Richard Sheffrin. And Rich Sheffrin has always been a master of marketing. And he is not bad at sales. He can sell quite happily because he doesn't have hang-ups about it. And all selling is asking questions about your prospect situation and determining whether the product or service you're offering is a good fit for that situation. And I hope, I know I'm banging on about this, but I hope the people listening will be able to get some click in their head from this, because if you're selling something that you believe in, it's your duty to go out and find people who need what you're offering. And that's another word too. Offering is better than the word selling, because you can't sell people, you can't make people buy, but what you can do is offer a solution, and they will buy it if it's presented in the right way. Which then leads me to, you've got to make it easy for people to buy, because so many people who've got a fear of selling or a fear of appearing promotive or pushy or tacky in some way, make it really, really difficult for people to buy from them. You go to their website and it's not obvious which step to take next. It's not obvious where to click to buy. It's not obvious to choose what you want or how many of them you want. It's like you're keeping your product or service a mystery. It's hilarious. And I get very, very cross when I come across websites like that where I actually want to buy something. So, yes, lots of ways to sell. I've always loved speaking in public, but I've never had an offer that converted from the stage. So, or the one time I did, which was when I first got up on the stage at the Internet Marketing Conference where you were there, Judith, when Brett asked me to speak. I got to the back of the room and there was no one to say it. I was surrounded by a load of people who wanted to buy, and there was no one to take the orders. So because I hadn't arranged that, I didn't know that that's what you were supposed to do, and I didn't know that you were supposed to have people ready to take orders. All my lot had pissed off to the bar. So that wasn't great. So there's certain ways of selling, and you have to know the ropes. Webinar selling's always worked really, really well for me, because if you teach while you're creating a rapport, which is what the origin story at the beginning of all webinars is about, creating a rapport, and then you go into teaching in the middle, and ideally you should give people a taste of the transformation they can expect from working from you. And I'm actually working with Sue after our having her on as a guest, and she's walking me through her process, and it's really good because it's enabling me to focus down on who I can create a transformation for and what transformation I'm creating, which is turning someone who is an expert, an author, a specialist, into a confident online marketer who gets fairly recompensed for their skills and expertise. So in order to do that, I have to lead them through a process that gives them little tastes of that transformation. And that's the bit we're up to now. Which low-cost products and services would give people a taste of that transformation in order that I can then invest in paid traffic that will then self-liquidate through the sales of those early products and services. So that's funnel marketing, which we haven't mentioned yet. And then there's all different other kinds. But the point that James Schramko makes is you can sell till you're blue in the face, but if your offer isn't right, then nobody's going to buy. So when you say your offer, it's not just about offering your product or service. It's about making it so irresistible that people can't help themselves but buy. And a great one to talk about that was Dan Kennedy. And who's the other one? The other vintage? Dan Kennedy and someone else. Anyway, they used to talk about taking all the risk away from the purchaser. And that's part of your offer. The product's part of your offer. The features and benefits are part of your offer. The guarantee is part of your offer. The price and the pricing options are part of your offer. So if you've got something that isn't selling, and actually I'm in a situation like that with one of my clients at the moment, we know that people are interested. We know that they love her. They respond to all her stuff. We've offered several things so far. We're currently running a survey to find out what their pains and wants are, because people will buy wants more than needs, as we know, Judith. So it's really just a question of finding a product that people will buy, get it, and then getting the offer right on that product. So there's quite a bit more to selling than you think there is. But I'm actually a really good salesperson on the telephone. If I get to the point if someone wants to talk to me and they book into my diary, they're probably 90% sold already by all my marketing materials. And then it's just a question of being reassured that this is the product or service that will help them. And I'm really good at that. And I learned that in the Money Gym days when I worked with Chris Barrow. And you know what the secret is? You just shut up and listen. You let people talk for an hour. And then right at the very end, you say, well, what I can prescribe for the problems that you're outlining is my products or service. And this is how you sign up.
Yeah.
Listen, really hard.
Yeah.
Does that help?
It does. May I speak?
Yes.
I think what's really interesting about selling is that it's a two-sided thing, and people must remember that the other side of it is buying. And we love buying. Look what you opened the podcast with. I've had a shopping spree.
Yes, and I enjoyed
We love buying. Yeah, we love buying, but we're iffy about selling. And I think there's two aspects to that. One, well, I think my clients, it's in their early days, are very anxious about rejection. Actually, they offer and people don't want it, and it's all their own internal stuff. Actually,
Yeah.
but I'm going to tell you my experiences. Well, I think I would like to comment that I think the webinar formula is wrong. And many people say this, all this establishing your credentials for 20 minutes at the beginning is rubbish. I think go straight into the meat, and if I want it, tell me about you at the end. And you know who modelled that always very well in Speaking from the Stage was Jill Fielding. Go straight into the meat, and at the end she told you about herself and what her motivation was, which was it a disabled sister or a
Yes, it was. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Reduce the audience.
Yeah, it was quite moving, that. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So I think the webinar formula needs an overhaul. And I think it's interesting how much we resist and yet buy from formula. We don't like sales letter formulas and we don't like webinar formulas, but we go to them, we buy. And I think that's what people's anxiety is. If I go into your diary, or if I go to a webinar, or if I read a sales letter, I might accidentally buy something I don't want. But I think people should remember that buying is nice. And I'm going to tell you a good story about that. And it's a bit like the irresistible offer, and it's a bit like where you can't help yourself. As I opened the front door in about 1980 something, and a man was trying to sell me one of those little spy holes that goes in the middle of the central plank. And I opened, and actually when you worked at home in those days, you were plagued by people trying to sell you things at the door. And so me and my colleagues, it's your turn to go to the door. Anyway, it was my house, and I went to the door, and there he was. And he was quite personable. And he went into a very short pitch about why a spy hole in the middle of my front door would be very good. And it was £8 and he could do it now. And I went, oh, go on then. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you're in a good mood and the right thing lands on the right day and it's affordable and reasonably desirable and you like the chutzpah of the salesperson, it's rude not to.
Yeah, I have on many occasions bought things because I've liked the salesperson.
Well, isn't that interesting? So we've got to be, as sellers, we've got to be personable. Now, when I left working for the firm of accountants and Henry got me started in proper freelancing, I worked for a French company called KIS, and they made instant service machines, which in the early 80s was you went into a shop and you got your shoes repaired while you waited, or you got a key cut while you waited, or various other things like that. Instant service, okay? You go to the shop and they do it while you wait. And they went from there into photo printing machines, so you could go and have your photographs printed while you waited, often in a pharmacy or something like that. And they had a huge sales team, and I loved them because they were jack the lads. They thought they walked on water, and they worked entirely on commission, and they didn't do any work for 3 weeks a month and then sold it in the last week of the month. And they had a marvelous sense of humor. They were cheeky. They thought the sun shone out of their bottoms, and the business couldn't do anything without them. Of course, the admin team used to think, well, they couldn't do anything without us either. It was quite a competitive relationship, and sometimes they got quite shouty, but they were quite flirty and fun. And they taught me about proper selling. And proper selling is you walk people, as you alluded to, you walk people down a corridor asking them questions, which is like opening a door. And as they you open a door for them, and they say yes to that one, you open another door. And they taught me all the professional techniques of how they sell more puddings at motorway service stations. You say to the person when they move their trolley along that horrible silver rail, if that's what people still do, I've no idea. And when you get to the puddings, the person behind the counter says, do you want custard with that? And if you say no, you get pudding. And if you say yes, you get pudding with custard, even if you never intended to buy a pudding in the first place. So, when I see sales techniques like that, I absolutely bloody love it. And I always think as well of Guy Levine and Chris Barrow, who used to say when it came to selling, do you want it or what?
That's called the assumptive close when you're
I just love it. Oh, yes, yeah. I absolutely. When I see proper old-fashioned sales techniques in action where nobody earns a bean unless they get up in the morning. And actually, these sales guys, they all had Porsches, several wives, and huge overheads, so that drove them to make sales. And it's a whole new world. I mean, there's a famous play about it. I forget what it's called now. Something about, it's not Death of a Salesman, it's another one. Anyway, I'll remember what that one is later. But my own experience of selling, similar to yours, is the discovery call. I don't like that expression and I don't use it, but first one free. And people don't book into that unless they are seriously contemplating buying. In fact, I think I qualify that now. I think I say, if you're contemplating becoming a client, put yourself in for a free one. And the lady that I did that with last week from California, who discovered me via this thing, has paid for that, even though she doesn't have to. So when she books in for her first proper one of our relationship, she'll get that one for free. I haven't had a chance to tell her that, but she will. But the point is, what I do in that first call is I just give them an experience of what it would be like to work with me.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, they either want it or they don't. Or they either want it and they want it now, or they don't want it, or they want it later.
Yeah. And the other...
So it's like an extreme... It's like, do you want to buy a whole cake? Here's a piece, try it.
Yeah. And you know, listening to you, it reminds me of what brilliant salespeople children are. I mean, I remember once I took Nelson around the DIY store, and he said, "Which set of screwdrivers can I have, Mummy?" Because, you know, because they've got no hang-ups about deserving it. They've got no hang-ups about worth it. They've got they just want it, and they want the biggest and the brightest and the shiniest one they can get.
Yes. And I think that horrible thing you opened with about we always thought, you know, a used car salesman, and what were the other types? I can't remember, but they were trying to sell us.
Yeah.
You up?
Estate agents and people like that.
Yes. Now, you see, you wouldn't buy a house you didn't want just because the estate agent was good at selling. And I don't think you would with a car these days either, because I think we're a bit more sophisticated. But we must remember that a large whack, if not all of it, of those people, certainly back then, was commission only. So the reason why they're quite sort of desperate to get you to buy something is they're not going to eat unless they do. No,
they're not. And actually, my ex-husband, Irving, is currently working for a financial services company where he sells invoice factoring to big businesses, and he started his career at CBS Records selling new releases into record shops on the phone. So he is obviously a brilliant telephone salesperson, because that's what he's made his living.
Well, there we go. That's interesting, isn't it? You see, and the other thing that I learned about selling, which I always share with my clients if we're going to go for the pitching type of thing, is that last client that I had when I knew you, that was 2 days a week, that they sold via the relationship building from the cold call. So he had lists of procurement departments of big companies, FTSE 100 companies, and he was a lovely, 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 charming boy in his late 20s, and he would call them, get through all the gatekeepers, reach the person, find out when they were planning their next comms event, because that's what they did, find out when they would be inviting pitches for that, and that could be anything like 18 months ahead. But because he was such a charming man, and because he established rapport with the person, because he kept in touch with the person at sort of 3-month or 6-monthly intervals all the way up to the pitching point, you know, the woman at the other end was going, I really want Ashley to have it. You know what I mean? That he'd built a relationship with it by then, and it meant that he knew there was a sales funnel that was mapped, which is, you know, what hot leads are we working on? What percentage are we likely to get this one? When's the pitching date? Who's on the pitching team? You know, it was quite a controlled operation. And I heard this in my peripheral hearing all the time, Ashley building relationships over the telephone with people, which would mean eventually they could pitch for it and they would get a percentage of it. And I just was full of admiration for it, really. He wasn't trying to sell anything. He started with building the relationship.
Yeah. And I think that's why Irving's so good on the phone as well. He's a very good listener.
Well, the first day I met him, he's personable as well, you see, isn't he? He was gallant. He picked up my suitcase and took it to my bedroom. I've never forgotten the first impression he created.
There's some books I'd like to recommend. I've read a lot of sales books, particularly when I was starting the Facebook ads agency, because I wanted to be a bit more proactive than just being attraction marketing. I wanted to actually, you know, hone down my top 100 prospects and all that stuff. And so 2 books I read that were particularly helpful was Spin Selling, which is SPIN selling, and that doesn't that's not some sneaky technique. It just is an acronym that reminds you of what to do in which order when you're talking to people, and that's particularly good for high ticket items. So it would work on your discovery calls or your webinars. And the other one is Predictable Revenue, which is written by Aaron Hall, Aaron. Aaron Hall, I think his name is. Anyway, he was the top salesperson and then something on the board at Salesforce, you know, this selling software. And the lovely thing about that was he talked about people who were how to identify your ideal client, how to then draw up a hit list of the top 100 of people in your ideal client list, how to find them on LinkedIn, how to start making contact with them, not even on LinkedIn, just on Twitter, on whatever. You basically draw up a hit list and start building relationships. But the thing that I loved about predictable revenue particularly was the process, the creating a step-by-step process, which you had two kinds of people. You had lead generators and you had closers. And the closers were the people who went to the meetings and closed the deal, and the lead generators were the people who generated the leads in the first place and did all, stuff on the phone like Ashley. And
well, interestingly, we do both. We generate our own leads and then we close our sales.
Yeah, but the thing, for companies that have higher ticket items particularly, and who are in a position, well, like the last company you were referring to, they need to know, they need a bit more predictability about the flow of leads through their funnel than just sitting back and waiting for people to find you on the internet. So it's a very different kind of process, and I think a lot of people listening would do very well to look at predictable revenue particularly, because it's all about having a whole funnel with people in. And actually, Rachel Turner, when I first started as a coach, she said, get a bit of paper, down the left-hand side, make a list of the people you've spoken to about your coaching services, and then on the right hand, all along, draw columns and identify 5 to 6 stages that people were going through. Have you talked to them? Have you had a call with them? Have you followed up with a gift of a book or something like that? You establish your sales process.
Yeah, and that's what I like about that is it's active, not passive.
Yes, which gives you a much greater sense of control over your business success.
Now, 2 things. That company I was talking about with Ashley in those days, and I'm not sure they've changed much, didn't use the internet at all. So this was all done on telephone, and then people went to meetings. And sequentially, me, Paula MacArthur and Claire Rakes all tried to teach them to get online with their marketing and leads and all of that. And I don't think they do it very much still. Now, something you said in that chunk triggered me slightly. And I imagine that the majority of our audience are women. I don't know whether that's true. Do you think that's right?
I think we've got about 60% female audience.
Yeah, well, the language of selling is very macho and testosterone fueled, and hit list kept upsetting me when you said it. Hit list. Right. It's like, oh, that's a really aggressive word. I wouldn't use that. I would reframe that into just something gentler, less macho, like, I don't know, my opportunity list. My prospect list. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's just something lovelier.
I like the opportunity list. That's very nice, because prospect's still a bit of a dirty word, isn't it? So
the language of selling can be very off-putting, can't it? Yes, it can. Yeah. And I had one more idea for you or me together, or the podcast, which is we should do a selling challenge using Abraham principles.
Okay, say some more about that.
Not now. Well, just when you were talking about your 30-day challenges, I was thinking, well, we should challenge people to sell more cheekily, more chutzpah, more, asking for the business. When clients used to phone me in the olden days in extremis because they'd done all the things they were supposed to do, I say, have you asked for the business? Have you actually had a sales conversation with somebody? Which is, they only really do that, at 5 to midnight. But if it was a game and we were all joining in and we can say, I'm going to make a sale this month, or I'm going to make, they could target it in whatever they like, but we could have fun with it. But I'm not recommending we do it straight away. I'm just saying I had an idea while you were talking.
An only sales challenge.
Yes.
21 days.
Let's see how people respond. Let's see how people respond in the group. And but it could be fun. And we would only measure it against ourselves within the group. So for instance, if I just wanted to make a new client every month from selling rather than marketing, that would be enough for me. If somebody else wanted to make, an extra 10 sales a week because they sell, I don't know, something smaller.
Items,
You see what I'm saying? So no competition, just against ourselves in a community of people using, finding a way to be okay with selling. Just a 30-day challenge. We might have to lead up to it a bit, but I'm in the middle of moving house dozens of times, and we won't do it straight away. But I just had a genius idea that maybe we could convert people to feeling happier about selling and making it easier for them, and that would increase their revenue, even if it wasn't predictable. Unpredictable revenue is quite nice as well.
That would be
if it's on top.
And the other thing that would do, it would be entirely congruent with the content of the podcast, and it would actually promote the podcast without it being a podcast marketing exercise. It'd be a value-driven promotion for the podcast. I like that a lot. That's a great idea.
And I think that the listeners who were up for it might throw in other ideas that haven't occurred to us today, because you and I think very similarly about a lot of business things, and we are of a certain age. If there was young blood in there, they might give us some new ideas. Not that all of our listeners are young blood, but some might be.
What I'll do is I'll copy the slide from Angela Henderson's presentation and send it over to you, because basically it sums up what you need to include in a successful challenge, and it's only about 5 or 6 things, but it would get I think.
Okay.
Nice.
I probably can't even think about it until May or June when I'm in one place for a certain period of time.
Okay, very good.
But let's see. If nobody wants to join in, then we won't do it.
Yeah, it entirely depends on your reaction, lovely listeners. So is the whole topic of selling something you'd like to know more about, like to get better at, or vaguely interested in, would like to join a challenge? Do let us know in the Facebook group at facebook.com/own it the podcast.
No, facebook.com/groups/own it the podcast.
Okie dokes. Well, I was thinking people would go to the search bar and type in Own It the podcast, and that would find us.
Well, no, because if they do that, we want them in the group. We want them having this discussion in the group, okay? Not the page. Because, basically the page doesn't, when you comment when you make up, anyway, I end up answering those, and it's just me and the person, whereas in the group, we can all be involved in it.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, we could even start a thread, couldn't we, ourselves, after we finish here?
We could, but don't run away with the idea, because you've got your own challenges to organise, and I'm in the middle of a high-stress thing. But this thing doesn't go out until, I think, 19th, which is Easter weekend, isn't it? Good Friday, I think. Yeah. So let's see how everybody responds at the end of the month, and then we'll take it from there.
Early June might work. Okay.
Quite.
All right.
Now, let us move along to words of the week. I'm cheating this week. I'm doing a Nicola Cairncross, and I'm giving you 2 because my word is knowing, and it has inner in brackets in front of it. So I pressed the yes/no button about whether or not Emma would let me down. It just chimed with my inner knowing, which is I knew she wouldn't let me down.
Yeah.
And your inner knowing, your inner bird, your gut always knows the truth. So my word is knowing. Go into your self to find the answers for things.
Yeah. Mine is restock and recuperation.
Oh my God, you've cheated massively. That's your worst cheat ever. You've got to pick restock or recuperation. You can't have both. Okay.
Yeah, because I've been restocking everything and assessing my minimal needs. Minimal they are, but the things that will make a big difference, i.e. having suitcases I don't have to drag along that travel along effortlessly on their own 4 wheels, things like that.
Yeah.
Just making life easier.
Good. Okay, so do you have something to tell me in the project updates?
I do. I've had my critique of my screenplay back from the USA.
Ooh, how groovy. And?
Well, for $130 odd, it's well worth doing it, because they gave me a really intensive critique on not just the feasibility of the story, but on each character, on the grammar and spelling, so on the nitty-gritty details, although they did offer me a line edit, which would have picked up on those things. But basically, I just wanted to know if I can write screenplays, if I've got any talent at all. And they're paid to say this, so they probably say it to everyone. But they did go into quite a lot of detail about why my story was good, which bits of it needed to be beefed up and improved, which echoed with my own thoughts about it, to be honest. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through, I'm going to wait till I get home, and I'm going to go through their critique line by line and work on it further. So I've sent it off to 2 things, to 2 production companies of competition, and I've probably done that too far in advance, but that seems to be the way I work. I seem to need to get something out there and then want to improve it afterwards. So I feel like this creative tension that I have to get what I've done out into the world, even though it could probably have waited to be improved before it went out into the world. Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean, because I remember that first time that you said to me about the Michael Masterson book, which was called Ready, Fire, Aim. And I said to you, oh, no, that can't be right, Nicola. It must be Ready, Aim, Fire. And no, he fires before, well, almost before you're ready, actually. Before you've taken Ready, Fire, Aim. He recommends exactly what you're talking about, which in my world is sort of going off half-cock. But it's okay. I admire it in you, and I admire it in Yvonne Halling as well, even though it's chutzpah in spades. That's what it is.
Well, yeah, exactly, and you have to have quite a thick skin and not really care what other people think.
No, that's right. Although you do, it's not so much care. You were interested in this example sufficiently to pay for somebody's opinion.
Yeah, because I wanted to get an opinion from someone who actual screenplay writers in Hollywood, rather than people who are aspiring screenwriters, who I realised I was allowing to affect me, disproportionately when they haven't actually achieved the thing I wanted to achieve, which. So that's where I went with that.
Well, that's what we always want in a coach, you and I, isn't it? Somebody who's managed to achieve what we want.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's very easy to get sucked into listening to advice from people who haven't done what you want to do successfully. So, so that's my project updates at the moment.
Okay, so I've got nothing from Worthing, no news from Worthing. So I thought we might briefly mention that thing you flagged me in about Justin Brooks thinking of starting a paid newsletter. He seems to write something called the Daily Edge. Oh, God, daily. And he was debating with his followers whether if it was paid, it would motivate him to write it more reliably. So interestingly, even though he has a newsletter called Daily Edge, he doesn't get it out every day, and he thinks being paid to get it out would motivate him. Now, his people piled in and said, oh, yes, I'd pay any money to read your stuff, and other people sort of taking him up on the issue of whether or not being paid to it would increase his commitment. I don't need the being paid to get it out on time, and I think daily is quite a tall order, and I'm not sure I'd want to pay for something that came every day. But as you will recall, what I liked about it is that, like me, he was another early adopter of the pay what you want model. So he and I've got thinking in common, and he's actually about half my age, isn't he? He's about 30.
No, he's older than that. He must be mid-30s, too early.
Well, 35 is still, it's not quite half my age, but it's very nearly half my age. He and I think alike. What do you think about the thing he was saying?
Well, there's the Daily Edge, which I wouldn't subscribe to because it's just a list of great resources from around the web, which his assistants presumably compile. And he did used to write a front bit, which was more about him and Shona and their, because they're living completely.
Stories again. It's what we said, wasn't it? People like the stories.
Well, I would pay for a daily, weekly, whatever thing from Justin if it was, about his thought processes and their lifestyle. I would certainly pay probably up to $5 a month, perhaps even $7.95 a month dollars for that, because he's a thought leader. And I would be interested to hear what he's thinking about, what topics, what he thinks, how he puts a twist on it. Justin is also starting a new business, which people don't know about yet, which isn't about paid media. It's about being an independent entrepreneur family living as they, independently, a bit like the Sundance family.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if he's meaning that he's going to be writing a newsletter about that, which people can subscribe to, which would give him big reach, wouldn't it? It would give him if you think about the Sundance family, they've got hundreds of thousands of fans. And if those fans even gave him $4.95 a month, they'd be absolutely rolling in it.
Well, he already has a huge list, doesn't he?
He does, yes, but they're all people who want to become media buyers. But that actually, the underlying thing under that is that they want to become location independent.
Yeah. And I think, lots of my clients, well, not lots of, a significant proportion of my clients are location independent. And I've always said to them, look, this is so attractive to people who, for one reason or another, are stuck at home on their couch. On Amazon, one of the biggest selling is those people that write books about, it started with Peter Mayle going to live in Provence, and then it was the lady in Tuscany, the sunflowers, and on and on and on and on. There's a never-ending desire for people going off on and living the life we wish we could. Of course, we know we can, but for some unknown reason, often maybe children in school, well, mind you, the Sundance people and Justin, they take their children with them, don't they?
But remember, it's all about entertainment or education. I watched 20 minutes of your mate living on a narrowboat, and I absolutely love it. And that's entertainment for me. I'm not ever going to go live on a narrowboat because it's too tiny and it's in England.
But it is quite fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Seeing other people's ways of life.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, it only takes 16,666 people giving you £5 a month to make $1 million a year.
Going back to Lisa and what's his name, the gorgeous husband, Glenn.
Yes.
I think if they were dull people, we wouldn't watch that. It's the vibe from Lisa, which is she's such a high vibe woman, and we like the foil that he is for her and their humour. So it is, you can't be a dull person and do this, I don't think.
I mean, it's interesting because I actually don't think either of them are particularly, exciting. But Lisa, I know you're listening, right? So
I don't think that's true. True. She's a very high vibe woman.
I know that, and I'm not saying that she isn't. But what I'm saying is what they include in their video, and I've got enormous respect for her for filming all the time and then editing it together and putting it together in a way that I could never be bothered to do. And actually, it's more like Casey Neistat what she does, and I enormous respect for that. They're not doing anything very exciting. They're hanging out with their kids. They're going shopping in various little artisan places. They're going to a pub or a quiz or a comedy night. They're not living exciting lives. They go up and down in the boat occasionally.
But they're living lovely lives, aren't they? About multi-generations and, it's a life of meaning, isn't it? That's what their thing is.
And the thing I love most about it is when Glenn does DIY on the boat. And I'm never going to do any DIY myself, but I love watching them do it.
That's so extraordinary.
So if I can happily watch, and if 20 minutes to 30 minutes of a week of, and I think I would probably pay £5 a month to watch it. So she could move it onto, the YouTube paid bit. And, there's actually there's a new channel starting where people can pay you in blockchain. It's like the YouTube subscription model with blockchain. So I could pay the equivalent of $5 a month using blockchain to subscribe. And I probably would, to be honest.
Well, she could also use Patreon if she wanted to, because that's you've got to choose your platform, because, Patreon is all about being patronised and they can get for things for free. Anyway, there was something I wanted to say there.
Lisa, I wasn't calling you dull. I was saying that you don't lead you don't leave a jet-setting lifestyle, but that's not the point. The point is that we all aspire to be free.
That's reminded me what I was going to say. When I was a young girl, there was, in the days of black and white television, there was a popular programme, I don't know what channel it was on, with a man called Barry Bucknell. And what Barry Bucknell did was DIY on the telly, and we watched.
I used to love Jack Hargreaves in his shed, who would sit and create cunning things for the garden. My granddad used to love that, and then he used to go.
I can still sing that song. Would you like me to sing that song? Do 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 do.
That's it.
Do 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 do. It was all about do. It was great. Anyway,
was it
Barry Bucknell?
Outward Bound?
It was something like that, was it? It was something like that, yes.
Pretty sure. Jack Hargreaves in his shed, Outward Bound.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, Jack Hargreaves and Barry Bucknell, a couple of raves from the grave there, Nicola.
But our point is that if people are being entertained or educated or a mixture of both, they'll probably pay £5 per month for it.
Well, if you want to keep it coming, that's the point. I mean, I pay $5 a month, which is about £3.70, to keep my absolutely out there weirdo astrologer's monthly report coming, and I patronise Richard because I want him to keep doing what he does. There's many different reasons for the small monthly outgoing.
I pay £5 a month just to keep the ads off my ITV app, because I can't stand it.
I've contemplated that because it'll be very time saving, because it won't let you do anything else except emails while it's in the ad break, will it?
No, it won't. And if Channel 4 had a way to avoid the ads, I'd be doing that on Channel 4 as well, because I blooming hate it. It's not even the ads as such, it's the fact they repeat the same ads 4 times an hour. It drives me absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I think you should write in.
and beg to give them money so I don't have to watch their ads.
Yes. Well, that's what I've always said about being able to stream absolutely everything, not being backed into doing it illegally. I would pay. And if it's available on any of the paying channels, I pay. Now, let me just say something to you. When I said I think you should write into Channel 4, I also think you should write into Justin Brooke and tell him what you said in the thing, what you would pay for.
Yeah.
Not in public necessarily. I would send, since you know him a bit, I would send him a private message.
Yeah.
Because you came up with a brilliant idea for him then, and that might help him.
Oh, if only I can remember it.
Well, it is in the recording, isn't it?
It is. I can refresh my memory by listening to myself.
Exactly, when you're editing, yes.
When I'm editing, good point. What about
now? Have we done who or what's impressed? Have you told me who or what's impressed you?
No, I've got two things. I've got a really useful little tool which is free, and you can download it. It's called Screaming Frog. If you go to screamingfrog.com and download the software, it's perfectly safe. And what it does is it sits on your desktop and you open it up and then you put your own domain name in it. And then you go to titles and you go to meta description, and you'll be astonished at how many of your pages on your website have not got meaningful titles for the search engines. So all of mine had nicolacairncross.com, and some of them had something that didn't mean anything to the search engines, or tell it what my site was about, or even tell it what the page was about. So my book page was the books, then a pipe, and then nicolacairncross.com. Well, that's not telling the search engines what my books are about at all, is it? So I went through and I changed all of my main pages titles so they were meaningful, and then I went and changed all my meta descriptions. Now, we've been told that Google doesn't take any notice of meta descriptions, but as the chap on the stage, Stephen something, mentioned, there are a lot of other search engines apart from Google, and indeed when I went to look at my analytics, I found that I get quite a significant amount of traffic from Bing. So Bing do like meta descriptions, but it was a really free, easy way to tell you which of your pages on your website you need to pay attention to. So that's screamingfrog.com. And my second one is, we started on the recommendation of many people to start to watch Fleabag last night, Phoebe and I, and we were absolutely falling about. It is the funniest, darkest, strong female centric thing we've watched for a long time. She's an absolute terror, and if you've ever had a hint of the rebel in you as a girl, this is one for you. Fleabag series 1.
How many did you do? All of them?
We did 3 in back to back. Then I had to go to bed.
Three episodes from season 1.
Yeah, and they were really good. Really enjoyed them. Dark, very dark, but very funny.
I gave up after 2 the first time around, but when I started to watch season 2, it was so good I had to go back and watch the whole of season 1 again. Yeah. And actually, she morphs from that rebel into you. I'm not going to tell you, but you perceive her completely differently by the end, in a good way. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, I mean, her taste in men is execrable.
Well, it gets better. In season 2, we have what is called #HotPriest.
Oh, okay. Oh, who needs a priest in one's life? Nobody.
Well, you will need this one because it's that gorgeous Andrew Scott who plays Moriarty in Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes program. Yeah. You'll recognise him when you get there, and he's
no, I won't. I never watched Sherlock Holmes. Don't like it.
Oh well, he was in the latest Bond film. He's in everything. You'll know who he is when you get there. He's in everything.
All right.
Okay. And they were mates. Yeah, well, I have the permission. Well, more Abraham results, and I have permission to share them.
Oh, excellent.
From Cherie. You know Cherie, the horse lady?
I do.
Yes. And I sought her permission to share her results anonymously, and she said, of course, it's perfectly fine with me, and I don't mind not being a non either. So last Friday afternoon, between 4 and 5:30, she came into my small business Nick group because I'd given her a poke, because she hadn't been in for a long time. And when clients don't come in for a long time, I know what that means. It means they don't want to tell me that things aren't going very well. And so she started very quickly, she's a very efficient communicator, she started very quickly to tell me that things hadn't picked up after Christmas, and she always expects January to be bad, but she was disappointed in February and March and April so far. And she said, I know you're going to tell me I need to do some vibe work. And I went, well, no, I'm not going to start there, I'm going to end there. Let's go through all the business aspects of this first, which we did. So let me just remind you, this was 4 till 5:30 on Friday afternoon. At, I think, about 8 o'clock at night on Saturday, she PM'd me to say, amazing Abraham, 3 new inquiries converted to 2 new clients today, and a free bottle of wine from Sainsbury's yesterday.
Well, you can't put that in the teeth, can you?
I know. And I said, what did I tell you? That was quick too. And she goes, incredible. I said, I'm so pleased for you. You know what you have to do, don't you? Don't stop. Yeah. And she goes, yes, I'll maintain the vibe and force field against negativity. And I said, oh, this is such a cheering story, and the speed. And this is the best bit of this story. And she goes, because she's such a clever woman, she's got degrees in hypnosis and all sorts of things. So she goes, and when you get it, it's so simple about getting into and maintaining the emotion of what you feel when. I'm going to have fun now, just practicing. Good night, Judith, and thank you. Now, and then on Monday or Tuesday, or maybe yesterday, I woke up and thought, oh, I need to tell Nicola about this on the podcast now, and I need to put it in my Facebook note where I'm going to tell, because people keep emailing me from all over the world and saying, can you give me the links again? And I don't like watching videos, and how can I do this, and all of these things. And I've prepared an email that I just send to them. I'm going to make it into a Facebook note, and I've asked for Cherie's permission to put her results in there. I'm going to put various other things in there as well. So there's like a resource. Oh, I've forgotten what I was going to say.
Don't forget to add my £4,000 website makeover win, because I'm absolutely positive.
Well, you can do that, can't you? In when you talk about that in your Law of Attraction challenge or something. Yeah. But she's so bright with this. It's so simple. It's about getting into and maintaining the emotion of what you feel when. I'm going to have fun now, just practicing. It's very inspiring, and I've shared it with people this week. And then I woke up this week and I went, oh, I've got to share it with you. And then she gave me permission not even to be anonymous, which is so cool. So, you know, I'm not going to teach all of my clients, let's just stop all the business madness and go straight to Abraham. We went through all the business things first, but it was the changing of the vibe that kicked her up a level. And then she said yesterday, when she gave me permission, and another 2 bookings yesterday. And I went, is that from those clients? No, more clients. So she's got like 4 new pieces of business since last Friday. And it was only Wednesday when she told me that.
I think as she's given us permission not to be anonymous, we should say her full name so that people, and what she does. So
yes,
she's rewarded for that.
Yes, I will put that in the show notes, actually, because we'll give her a link to that lovely hypnosis page of hers.
She looks after people, riders, doesn't she? Horse
well, she that's one thing she does, but actually she's multi-skilled in all levels of NLP and hypnosis. She can turn that talent she's got to anybody. And like somebody said this week, was it us? I was listening to Sue O'Kell. I was listening to Sue O'Kell again. And she said it's so incredibly hard to do for yourself. But now she's got Abraham on her side, and she knows how to get into the vortex, and she knows how to create instant results using it, which is because of her training.
Yeah. Very good. She's a lovely person, so she deserves everything good that comes.
She totally does. Yeah. I agree. Totally agree.
Good stuff. I think that's us. All right. Well, that's us done.
It is, because we've been rather wordy today. Actually, we've rolled over the hour by about 7 minutes.
Never mind. I'll chop a bit off.
Okay.
I'll nibble away at the extra bits.
So, in terms of going back to Stoupa, happy landings, and I'll speak to you from Greece next week.
Yes, you will.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
How do they do it? Not a care and suffering.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.